I'm William Mackenzie, and I would like to start by reading from Hebrews chapter 12 at the beginning. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted. What are you thinking about today? Perhaps you're exercised about the problems in your family, in your business, in the world around you. Perhaps it's problems in your own life. Elijah was very depressed, and he came to this point, take away my life. Asaph, the psalmist, he too was depressed. He said, God, you don't know what's going on down here. What answer can we have in view of the mess things can be for us? Well, the solution is in this verse, verse 3, where we're told to consider him. And I would like to think of 7 ways of considering him. All of them begin with the letter C. The first then is creating Christ. He is the creating Christ. Without him was not anything made that was made. Hebrews tells us, God's Son, by whom the world was made. He made the galaxies, the gene, the proton, the atom, and he made you and me. If he made us, does he not know what we're thinking about? If he gave us our eyes, does he not see what we are doing? He created us. In him we live and move and have our being. But you know, his greatest work is creating within us a clean, new heart. He is the creating Christ. Secondly, he is the compassionate Christ. He has compassion on the ignorant. Remember, Jesus wept over that city that was going to crucify him, Jerusalem. He had pity on blind Bartimaeus. He was compassionate to the 5,000 who were hungry and fed them. He cried at the grave of his friend. Jesus, the Lord Jesus, is worthy of our consideration, not only because he is the creating Christ, but he is the compassionate Christ. Remember, he said on one occasion, how often would I have gathered you together as a hen gathers her chickens under her wing? He longs to gather us to himself. The third C is that he is the crying Christ. Remember in John chapter 7, verse 37, we read that on the last day of the feast, Jesus stood and cried and said, if anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink. Are you thirsty? Everybody I know is thirsty. Everybody in this world is thirsty, but very often we don't know where to satisfy that thirst. We perhaps think it's the next holiday. It's the new kitchen. Perhaps it's the hairdo. Perhaps it's the new car or the sporting achievement or holiday. But do they really satisfy? Remember Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men who ever lived. He was asked, how much money does it take to make a man happy? Do you know what his answer was? He said, a little more. Because nothing less than Christ will satisfy you. And when you find him, nothing more could be desired. He is crying. He is calling to us to come to him. To come unto me. If you hear my voice, come unto me and live. Fourthly, he is the crucified Christ. Yes, crucified. Matthew tells us they delivered him to be crucified. The child Christ is not enough. The miracle-working Christ is not enough. We need the crucified Christ. The Prince of Life died. The light of the world went out. That lingering, anguishing death. That bleeding brow. His friends forsook him. He was alone. He was crucified. Remember, Moses in the psalm asks the question, who knows the power of the wrath of God? I wonder who knows that. You don't. I don't. But Jesus does. He knows the endless wrath of God for our sin. He is the crucified Christ, so that you will never be alone, and so that your sin is dealt with. I find that very good. The fifth C is the cursed Christ. Now, I hesitate to use that expression, the cursed Christ. But he is. Isn't that the glory of the gospel? The glory of considering him, that he was made a curse for us? Martin Luther, the reformer, said, I hesitate to write this as he was translating the Bible, but I must do, because he became a curse for us. And you know the reason for that? The reason for that is so that you and I will never hear the words, depart from me, you cursed. He took it. As the African lady said, he die, me no die. Do I hear you say, foolishness? That's just ridiculous. That somebody so glorious as the Lord Jesus would become a curse for me? That's just stupid. Well, listen to what 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 18 says. The preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness, but to those being saved it is the power of God. What do you think of Jesus, who became a curse for us? I think it's wonderful. I hope you do too. Sixthly, consider him as the crowned Christ. He rose again, crowned with glory and honor. The death on Calvary was not the end of the story. He rose triumphant, King of kings, Lord of lords. He's at the right hand, as we read in that chapter in Hebrews, at the right hand of God the Father, seated. He's done the work. And you know, you're going to see him there. The child of God is going to meet him there with a welcome. The believer is going to rejoice in meeting him there. Will you? How majestic is his name! He's crowned with glory and honor. The crown signifying the power he has. All power is his. He's reigning till all his enemies be under his footstool. That's a big help to me today. It's glorious. Crowned with thorns at Calvary, but now crowned with glory and honor, so that you will have a crown of righteousness. Are you looking forward to that? One last C. The coming Christ. Every eye will see him. Mark chapter 16 tells us he's coming in the glory of his Father with the angels and will reward everyone according to what he has done. He says to his people, I will come again and receive you unto myself. But there's a warning connected with that, because he says, I'm coming when you don't expect it. He says also in another place, be ye also ready. He's coming to judge the world. We will all appear before him, as we mentioned earlier. And what an amazing day that will be. His records are absolute and correct. Consider him, the coming Christ. And may we hear his voice today saying, come to me, and I will give you rest. And you won't be weary and faint-hearted. Consider him, the crucified Christ, the compassionate Christ, the crying Christ, the crucified Christ, the cursed Christ, the crowned Christ, and the coming Christ. That will make your day better, your life better, and eternity wonderful. God bless.